Let's jump into this first story. We got this from the Post-Millennial. John Fetterman co-sponsor Senate bill despite being institutionalized since February 15th. Fetterman's office has not said who is co-sponsoring legislation with his name on it while he remains institutionalized. A senior aide revealed that Fetterman would be hospitalized for up to 2 months. So it's clearly not him. I guess that's the important point, is they're saying he's co-sponsoring this bill, but it's probably just a member of his staff. And I got to show you this right here from Twitter, or from John Cardillo on Twitter. He says, this is from February 25th. This was a while ago. Being told that Fetterman is essentially brain dead. Let me start over. Being told that Fetterman is essentially brain dead and it's being hidden because keeping him in office until August 18th avoids a special election, which Republicans would most certainly win. This must be investigated. So here's the best part about this tweet. There's the context gets added to it. And it says, readers added context they thought people might want to know. The August 18th date has no significance. If a senator from Pennsylvania passes away, a replacement appointed by the governor will serve until the next special election. Oh, thank you for the fact check Twitter. No fact check on whether or not Fetterman's brain dead or not. That one they didn't. So I saw that and I was like, okay. A bunch of users said, no, there won't be a special election. He's probably brain dead, but they'll just replace it. The 18th date doesn't matter. They'll just replace him or something. So is Fetterman brain dead?
They're not debating the brain dead part.
Right. That's what I thought was funny. I'm like, you'd think they'd be like, there's no evidence to suggest that John Fetterman is effectively brain dead. He was institutionalized with depression.
I mean, that's not really a medical term, is it?
Brain dead?
Brain dead? I mean...
it might be.
I don't know. And is this like a cover-up of a suicide attempt?
No.
He's struggling with depression?
The depression's probably fake.
I feel like
that's the fake part?
Yeah, he's probably in the hospital because his brain doesn't work.
Brain death is a thing. It's permanent, irreversible, and complete loss of brain function.
Except for the brain stem, right?
I
guess.
don't know.
The part that controls breathing or whatever.
But they do say it's irreversible, so let me be hyperbolic in this situation.
We'll do an informal poll of the audience. We'll ask the audience, what is more likely, knowing Fetterman's health and medical history, that he is depressed after winning his dream election and checked himself into a hospital where he'll be for up to 2 months, or the man who suffered a stroke not that long ago and still can't understand words had some kind of recurring health issue that has injured his brain further?
I think that depression...
Put a 1 in the chat if you think he's just depressed, and 2 if you think he's brain dead.
I think the Democrat Party is the worst senior care home I've ever seen. I mean, between Fetterman and Biden, they cannot find out. I mean, they never know where these guys are. How do we not know where John Fetterman is?
I don't know.
How do we not know if he's brain dead?
Well, I always roll my eyes a little bit at stuff like this. It is convenient for conservatives on the right to be able to say he's brain dead because the dude's basically not around. So in the world of politics, this is, I don't know, par for the course. Guy goes to the hospital, immediately come out with some salacious rumor that's going to shock and damage the perception of this party. But I'm kind of like, of all the rumors they could have, the dude who had a stroke not that long ago who can't understand words suffering another stroke is completely plausible, because we talked about this before. People who suffer strokes are at risk for suffering them again. And then all of a sudden, dude's in the hospital for several weeks. And get this, his wife is gone. Giselle Fetterman, children, take trip to Canada in wake of Senator's hospitalization.
She's truly a frightful looking woman.
That's what gets me, even if he's not brain dead, right? In what world, when anyone you care about is hospitalized because they're so depressed, do you flee the country?
I think people were ragging on her. And a lot of, like on Twitter, they're like, stop making fun of Fetterman's wife. You're bad people. And it's like, dude,
what?
Her husband's depressed and in the hospital for weeks, and she just went on vacation with her kids. That is like, that's worse than what Ted Cruz did. Like with Ted Cruz, he went on vacation during that ice storm. And it's like, well, he was with his family, though. So at the very least, he cares about his family. This is like the senator's wife, whose husband is a senator, not only fleeing the state, but also fleeing her husband, who is, convalesced. That's dark.
If he's just depressed, then what is the reason to hospitalize unless they think that he's a danger to himself? Like,
I don't know. I guess he checked himself in or something.
If you're depressed, that's the last, like a hospital's the last place you should be. And they would just ship you off to a long-term medical facility that's not hospital.
This guy's a cucumber. He's a cucumber.
I mean, look, don't
It
be
just doesn't add up to me. And
Don't-
they assign him this authoritarian-looking school teacher woman.
Everybody thought Ruth Bader Ginsburg died that one time. And they're like, where is she? She's dead. And then she pops up a few months later like, I'm still here. And, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Fetterman, pops up later. Because you can't, if someone really was brain dead, then they can't keep that covered up forever. So I wonder if I think injury makes more sense. Recurring injury makes more sense, but I don't know about brain dead
I think
or dead.
depression makes a lot of sense. Whenever someone suffers a head trauma, especially fighters, it's pretty common in the fight. They have all sorts of chemical imbalance. A lot of bad things can happen emotionally to people with head trauma. So if he had a stroke, it's very likely that confusion brings on depression.
Maybe.
And then that could have led to stress. It additionally could have led to another episode or another injury as well. But I wouldn't. I think the depression for sure.
What's that thing he's got where he can't understand words anymore? That was the big thing. Like he can hear when you talk, but all he hears is like a and so
That's problematic.
it's very So during the debates, there was a monitor, and when they would talk, it would translate the text to speech so they could look at it and then read it, and it was causing him problems.
Yeah, he had the cheat screen.
I wonder if just it got to the point where he's in office, he just can't do the job, and none of us thought he could do the job. And so, he's like,
So humiliating.
maybe look, if he is in the hospital, I would say this. If it's not a recurring injury, then it's political. And they probably said, we can't work with you because your brain's broken. Go to the hospital and take a few weeks to see if you can get your head straight, and we'll have your aides take care of the job for you.
And we'll send your wife too.
Well, I don't know.
Nice
She fled
Caribbean vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Where did she go for vacation?
Canada. In the
Canada?
winter. Canada in the winter is a great.
Does she have family
What?
there? Maybe she got family there.
Here's the story from Penn Live. What happens when your husband or father, a senator to boot, checks into the hospital and media trucks circle your home? Pack the kids up and head to Canada, Giselle Fetterman says. Fetterman recently explained on Twitter that she and her kids left Pennsylvania for a family trip to Niagara Falls to get away from the media coverage surrounding her husband's recovery at Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Fetterman checked himself in to receive treatment for clinical depression on February 16th, according to his chief of staff, Adam Gentleson. He is there on a voluntary basis while his family navigates how to deal with the grief that comes with such a hospitalization. Giselle Fetterman said she and her son ziplined across Niagara Falls, and the family did other scary things together. This is just a really, really weird story, isn't it?
This sounds sick. It sounds sick. And the people
Other scary
writing this,
things.
Yeah, like what? Maybe she's leaving him.
I could see they go into the hospital room and he's like incapacitated almost but he's like, I want you to be happy kind of thing. Like, do it. I would go
So
with
she's
you.
like, okay, we'll do it. We'll go zip lining over Niagara Falls.
Does he have
I
like
would
a
not be able
Stephen
to do that.
Hawking like voice generator or
He
something?
can talk.
know.
He just can't understand the words that are said to him.
I don't know. He could be in a coma for all I know. I don't know.
That's the rumor.
We don't know. Remember when
The rumor that he's-
Trump got COVID and everyone was like, "Oh, he's dying. He's dying. They're covering it up."
And then he
But
did
then
a video where he
all
was
of the
like,
establishment journalists who didn't want to seem like they were establishment were like, "I hope he dies." Like they're really ugly people.
This is the thing. I want the best for John Fetterman. I want him to be healthy,
Yeah.
which is why I wanted him to lose, because no person that just had a stroke should be taking on that kind of mental stress. And obviously, and this is why, because
It's the same thing with Joe Biden. I genuinely feel bad for both Joe Biden and Fetterman. I feel like it's elder abuse what they're doing,
man, Joe is like
putting them through the ringer.
well,
Neither of these
Dianne
girls should be on
Feinstein's in the hospital right now.
but that's shingle.
Yeah, but still, like, how old is she? Can someone look up her age? Yeah. So we didn't even bring this up. We should have mentioned this. Dianne Feinstein's in the hospital. The Democratic Party is, with all due respect to the elderly, the geriatric party at this point. At least Republicans have they're making fun of the Republican Party and CPAC for the weirdos and the freaks. You had Joe Scarborough on MSNBC call them all weirdos and freaks, and I'm like, at least they're like youngish.
dude,
Especially
Feinstein's 89.
Especially Mitch McConnell.
89.
McConnell, she's going to be 90 in June.
Wow. And Nancy Pelosi's still in office. It's just a whole bunch of really old people that are slowly dying. The Democratic and young leftists don't like the Democratic Party. So this could finally be the end of this garbage political party.
And we
How
need
about
term
that?
limits. We need term limits.
I agree. You know,
Across the board.
What about, how about,
Congress.
wait, I got it. Party term limits.
I mean, you got to change parties at some point.
What say you?
A Democrat cannot hold the same office longer than 2 consecutive terms or something like that.
Unless they become a Republican.
So like, no, any party. So we do this. If any seat, a senator seat, a congressional seat, is held by a Democrat for, like, let's say term limits. Member of Congress, they can serve 8 years. After those 8 years, you can't have the same person or political party.
Oh, you got to switch the whole thing up. Well, you know what I think? I think they should remove the D's and the R's on all of the ballots.
Agreed.
It should be
talk about
illegal.
this. That way,
Illegal.
because
people will
go,
change their name to like Hot Lightning and stuff, and they'll get or like
No, but
Aaron Anderson.
I don't think the
and they'll get
biggest
Hot-
issue would
that's
be
called
people
electoral
changing
fraud,
their name
Ian.
to Hot Lightning.
They'll be like, if you can't, if you got to represent yourself just by a piece of text on a paper when the vote comes to stupid voters or people that ignorant
John
voters.
Democrat Smith.
Yeah, they'll be like best choice will be the name, and they'll be like, how does best choice keep winning the elections?
D's nuts.
I'm
won,
kind of
remember?
joking, but I'm concerned that just taking the D and the R off wouldn't be enough because they'd still the
It's a
names
start.
would still. It is a start.
You
Yeah.
have to put your legal name.
So we went to Congress a month ago, and we spent some time down there.
Real quick, sorry. Correction. We're not there this week. We're there next
Yeah,
week.
next Friday. We interviewed them, and I got a vibe of why they don't seem to want term limits, why there's pushback, because it's like a fraternity. You go in and they become such close, tight battle buddies, good friends, that like it's almost like losing an arm to see one of them have to go. Like Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, like they're tight. And if all of a sudden Lauren disappears, it's like, dude, that's like part of our crew, man.
It's not just that. They have to build their offices. When we went there, they were explaining how you get an office and then you have to do remodeling and you've got to set it up. They give you space. That's all you get.
And the staff is all integrated with people of other staffs and stuff. But just that's not enough reason to not have term limits, in my opinion. I just see why there's resistance to it now.
Party term limits and bureaucrat term limits. I think the party term limit thing is, we could even one up it and say, a Democrat, a member of a party, or I should say a political party, cannot have a member serve within, we do a gap term. So if a Democrat is in office for 8 terms, then it can't be a Democrat for the next 8 terms, and it can only be, so basically, yeah, that is, after that, it can be the Democrats again. So there's 8 years where it's not the Democratic Party. That means there'll have to be a third party, because if a Democrat district has their person term out, they're not going to vote Republican. So it's got to be a different political party. And that could mean there ends up with, we end up with like 4 or 5 different political parties that are very similar, but whatever, I'll take it. Break up the duopoly of the private political organizations that control everything.
We're overdue for that.
Has that ever happened on Earth in any government that the same party can't hold power?
I don't know.
Multiple terms.
No idea. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.